Sarah hit the brakes abruptly when a dark shape suddenly emerged in the middle of the road. The headlights revealed a dog, drenched, gaunt, but unwavering. Its eyes glinted in the darkness, paws planted firmly on the wet asphalt. Just behind, it, a few tiny puppies trembled from the cold. Sarah's heart raced, pounding loudly in her ears. She was alone on an empty country road, the darkness stretching endlessly, and the steady patter of rain was the only sound piercing the silence. She activated the hazard lights, trying to make sense of the scene before her. The dog didn't move. An inch. This was no accident. It was purposely blocking her way. "Come on, move," Sarah mumbled, her eyes fixed on the dog's intense gaze. She tapped the horn, but the animal didn't even flinch. The puppies behind it whimpered faintly, pressing into each other for warmth. Something was definitely off. Her hand trembled as she reached for her phone to call for help, but then the dog did something unexpected. Instead of bolting or stepping aside, it slowly lowered its head, almost as if pleading, and took a cautious step toward the car. A shiver crept down Sarah's spine. She had never seen a dog act like this before. Its eyes seemed to hold a desperate intelligence, something almost human. "What do you want?" Sarah breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. She switched on her flashlight and hesitated before slowly pushing the car door open. The dog didn't retreat. Instead, it took a few steps backward as if inviting her to follow. The sight was heartbreaking. The adult dog's soaked fur clung to its thin body, and its eyes remained locked on Sarah's. The puppies, though shaking, didn't scatter or try to flee. They didn't seem feral. They weren't afraid of people. Something was terribly wrong. Sarah glanced nervously up and down the road. No headlights, no sign of another vehicle. The darkness was oppressive, trees standing like silent sentinels. The dog, though motionless, seemed to be urging her to follow. Hesitant but unable to ignore the pleading eyes, Sarah stepped forward. The dog immediately turned, moving cautiously, toward the edge of the forest but pausing to make sure she was coming. "Oh God," Sarah muttered, dread coiling in her stomach. But she couldn't just drive away. She cast one last look at the puppies before stepping off the road, her boots sinking into the wet grass. Rain soaked through her jacket as she hurried after the dog, her heart pounding louder with each step. Amidst the rain and the thundering of her heart, a new sound reached her ears, a faint, muffled groan. Sarah halted abruptly, flashlight shaking. In her hand, someone was out there, hidden in the shadows. "Who's there?" she called, trying to steady her voice. The dog growled softly, its fur bristling. Something stirred in the darkness between the trees. A man appeared, slumped against a tree, barely conscious and struggling to lift his head. "It's he rasped, voice weak and broken. Then, a soft whimper came from nearby bushes. Sarah swung the flashlight toward the sound and gasped. 2 children stood there, dirty, terrified, eyes wide with fear. The older boy, no more, than 8, shielded a smaller girl who clutched a torn blanket. "Daddy?" The little girl's voice cracked, barely audible. The man's eyes glistened with tears. You're alive!" he choked out, attempting to reach for them, but nearly collapsing from exhaustion. Understanding dawned on Sarah like a punch to the chest. These children had been stranded here the whole time, lost, alone in the dark. The dog, despite its frail and battered state, had been guarding them, refusing to abandon them, desperately seeking help. "It's okay," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking as she knelt in front of the children, fighting her own tears. "You're safe now. I'll get you out of here, I promise." The boy's face crumpled, and he broke into sobs, throwing his arms around her. Sarah held them close, letting them know they were no longer alone. Later, as her car rolled cautiously back onto the road, the children were bundled in warm blankets, already asleep. The dog lay beside them, eyes half closed but alert, like a Vigilant guardian who refused to rest. You saved them, Sarah murmured, glancing at the dog with eyes full of gratitude. You're a hero. The dog met her gaze briefly, then rested its head gently on the little girl's lap, keeping watch, even in its exhaustion. If you loved this story, don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming tales that will touch your heart.